Welcome to the third presentation in our series on action learning. This presentation is Examples of Action Learning Program and Meeting Formats. I'm Carter McNamara of Authenticity Consulting. We're providing this series to make action learning even more available and more accessible to everyone. This presentation is one in a series, and they are best viewed in order, so please be sure to visit the website listed below for more information on the complete series as well as more information about our company. And so now, let's get started. In earlier presentations, we described the action learning process and the programs in which the process occurs. Now, we'll deepen your understanding even more by depicting some typical formats of action learning programs and the meetings that occur within them. First, though, we'll mention certain considerations that influence the final format of a program. We'll also mention some ground rules that might be used in a meeting. Then, we'll look at a sample format for a single project program and compare it to the format of a multi-project program. The final formats of action learning programs and meetings depend very much on the purpose of the program and the particular model being used. A model is a particular design of action learning, usually suggested by a certain practitioner or organization. A program can conform to the action learning process or framework but differ greatly in its use of various detailed aspects of the framework. For example, a single project program will likely dedicate much more time in meetings to the explanation of the project to members, and also to data gathering and analyses between meetings. We'll review a sample format in this presentation. Programs that include various trainings about certain subject matter might include various short trainings in or between meetings. For example, a management development program might include webinars between meetings and, for example, about planning, product development, or a performance model such as the balanced scorecard. Some programs build in various experiences during meetings. For example, a single project program intended primarily for team building might include team building activities and meetings, such as sharing of information about individual activities to build trust and so on. And meetings can range from 2 hours to even a day or more, depending on the complexity of the projects being addressed by the program. For example, a multi-project program might include only 5 members, each of whom gets 20 minutes to get help from fellow members. That might result in a 2-hour meeting. In contrast, if a single project program is tackling a very complex problem that must be solved in a very short time, then members might meet for full days to investigate and solve the problem. The ground rules in meetings might be the same whether it's a single project or a multi-project program. Here are the ground rules that we use in many programs. For example, meetings start and stop on time. Confidentiality is assured. That's a very important one. Keep the session focused. Manage your time slot. Help the group to help you. All opinions are honored, and you can disagree with others and the facilitator. Make sure you call a facilitator or the host if you cannot attend. Ground rules usually are discussed and hopefully finalized by members in the first meeting, which we call the preparatory workshop. They're usually mentioned at the beginning of each meeting to make sure everybody buys into those ground rules. When the final list has been agreed to, it's still useful to ask members, will you work to these ground rules? We'll review more about groups and meetings in an upcoming presentation about membership and about groups. When we talked previously about action learning programs, we mentioned that the first meeting in any program is usually a training about action learning, and it's called the preparatory workshop. So in the workshop, in the format of a single project program, members might attend to the following. For example, there might be an overview of the program, its purpose. There'd be introductions to the client, the sponsor, key stakeholders. Then there'd be an overview of the project background, any suggestions, deliverables, timelines. Maybe there'd be a review of the team charter, for example. But there'd certainly be a training about action learning, and that would be the heart of the meeting, of course. Near the end of that training, they might schedule their future meetings, and that usually is the typical agenda. It might take a half a day or a full day, or even more. It all depends on the purpose of the program. And after the workshop, the actual learning meetings occur. This example mentions 2 to 7 meetings, but again, that depends. A typical meeting might include a brief opening in which the facilitator reviews various ground rules, as we talked about, and does any needed introductions as well as listing the goals of the meeting. Then one or several members might present the status of the project, for example about deliverables, the timeline, and any key learnings so far. And that might be followed by a brief discussion among members and maybe with any relevant stakeholders. That might take even an hour or two. Then a member or several members get coached, usually one at a time, by others to first report on past actions and the learnings from them, further clarify status and learnings of the project, then identify relevant and realistic actions as next steps and how those actions might even affect stakeholders, and potentially then what to do about that. The coaching also helps members to reflect on the learning from the coaching. The meeting usually closes with all members reflecting on the entire meeting and what was learned. Members might share feedback about the quality of the meeting and how it could be improved. They verify dates, times, and locations for the next meeting. Then they might adjourn. That might be a 2, 4, or even an 8-hour meeting, but again, that depends on the complexity of the project and the timeline to address it. Meetings might be held monthly, with enough time between meetings for members to do their actions and reflect on their learning. Keep in mind, though, that this is just a sample of what a program format might be. So in a sample single project program, between meetings, some or all members do the actions that were identified in the meeting. Ideally, all members do actions. They might also attend to a variety of activities. For example, attend workshops or trainings about the project. They might gather and analyze data about the results of past actions. They might also generate findings and even recommendations. And they might identify additional actions to take to address those findings before the next meeting. They might even assess the impact of the potential actions on any key stakeholders. Programs usually do an evaluation about halfway through. That assesses the progress towards the project, any milestones achieved so far, and the quality of facilitation and meetings and individual results. The nature and the extent of activities between meetings depend on the complexity of the project they're addressing and the timelines to address it. By the way, the program might have decided to do a quick pilot or field test of the group's recommendations in order to verify them, and to do that even before this final meeting. But programs should end, and with a carefully designed closing meeting, we call it a debriefing. Members might even design the meeting themselves. In this meeting, members might share a final report about the project. They might share their learnings and the progress they've accomplished. They might even share evaluation feedback, for example, about the program design, how it was started, the quality of support to the program. It's really meaningful if members take time to acknowledge each other and the help they received during the program. Members might even decide to renew for another specific number of meetings. For example, to address a new project or even to start a multi-project program in which each member brings his or her own project. So now, after looking at a single project format, we're going to look at what does the multi-project program look like. You'll remember that this is where each member brings his or her own project. Sometimes this is called a peer coaching group. This program also starts with a workshop. For example, members are told about the purpose of the program, they meet each other, receive materials such as guidebooks and tools, and certainly they learn about the action learning process, and perhaps clarify each of their own projects to work on. As with single project programs, the training about action learning should provide opportunities to observe and take part in action learning. The workshop might be a very quick 2 hours, half a day, or a full day. If meetings are 2 hours, then there's very likely more trainings that will occur briefly in each of the upcoming action learning meetings. After the workshop, the actual action learning meetings occur. A meeting would include time for each member to report on past actions and the learnings, present his or her current priority to the group. Then, each member gets coaching from others to clarify the project, strategize about how to address it, and select relevant and realistic actions to address it before the next meeting. They always reflect on the learning from that coaching. Each person might get, say, 20 to 25 minutes. The meeting, though, usually closes with all members reflecting on the entire meeting and what was learned. Members might share feedback about the quality of the meeting and how it could be improved. They verify the dates, times, and locations for the next meeting. Then they adjourn. That might be 2 to 3 hours. Meetings might be held monthly. with enough time between meetings for members to do their actions. But keep in mind again, this is just a sample of what a program format might be. Between meetings, each member takes the actions that he or she selected, or does not do the actions, but is able to explain why not. Members reflect on the results of the actions and they identify new learnings. They select what to work on in the next meeting. Evaluations are done in each meeting about the quality of that meeting. And similar to single project programs, it's very useful to do an evaluation about halfway through a program. And that evaluation assesses the quality of the program, each meeting, the facilitation, and various results achieved by members so far. Multi-project program should end with a carefully designed closing meeting or debriefing, and members again might even design it themselves. In that meeting, members might share the learnings and progress they've accomplished. They might even share evaluation feedback with program staff. And again, it's very meaningful if they take time to acknowledge each other and the help they received during the program. And they might decide even to renew the program again for another specific number of meetings. Thank you for viewing this presentation. We hope you'll go on to the next one. You might benefit from the following resources to add even more detail to our overviews of action learning. The website Action Learning Central references an extensive amount of free resources, including about the action learning process, each of its key elements, examples of action learning programs, and tools for each aspect of action learning. There's even an action learning glossary with definitions for each of the common terms in action learning. Our company, Authenticity Consulting, also is available to answer your questions or to help you in any other way. Our firm does very successful action learning groups around the world and for a wide variety of outcomes and applications. There's also the free management library at managementhelp.org. You can find resources and tools for almost any activity in the workplace, including for many of the activities in action learning. You can find more about each of these three resources by going to actionlearningcentral.com/gratis and select the presentation entitled General Resources for Action Learning. Thank you.